is entitled, well, it's called Daddy is an Astronaut. So if you like what you hear, you can just snap. Can we just snap together? Awesome. What does your father do for work? That was the class exercise at a mission school for vocational works. And this little girl whispered. This little girl listened to the careers that her peers' fathers worked. And they said their fathers were traders, others were gardeners, some did clerical work. So it was now her turn to describe her father's work in words. And she said, "My daddy is a hugger," because he would hug her mom so tightly before he leaves home, knowing fully well he was the shoulder that they leaned on, gearing up in work suits and popping a blue collar, wielding a shovel and a hard hat to earn less than $6. She said, "My daddy is Jesus." Because every day he would descend into the depths of the earth and re-emerge from the soil with a divine rebirth. There was just something about the things that were granted that made her think her daddy could take 5 pieces of bread and make it feel like a banquet. She said, "My daddy is a teacher, but not the good kind. The kind that leaves you with more questions than answers, like the way his wife and daughter were left to wonder, what is so precious about the stones underground that people want more? What is so valuable about this dirt that people are willing to claim souls?" She said, "My daddy is a dentist." Because all she knew was that daddy was pulling out coals like pulling out teeth from the ground, and daddy was drilling holes and blowing up wars and would only earn £2. She said, "My daddy is a gossiper." That's the only explanation for why the walls between their homes maintained a space of only a few centimeters, so that the neighbors could keep them entertained. They could tell who's who's fighting, who's wrong, who's the cause. And my daddy didn't own a radio, so the news always came through the walls. You see, my daddy is the moon. Because daddy left home when it was bright and she only saw him at night. Every morning was the same and every evening alike. Seeing the sweat on his brow, the dirt in his palms, surviving a cave-in, all while being silent about it and occasionally quenching her cravings. You see, her daddy was an explorer. So even when she knew daddy slipped under Mother Nature's blanket, wiggled in her beddings and escaped with precious stones and trinkets, she knew that long before John F. Kennedy and America mastered a plot to land a man on the moon, she knew that her daddy was an astronaut. She said, "My daddy is an astronaut," because he was searching the ground for stars that sparkle bright. And when the walls caved in on him, he was now mining stars in the sky. Her daddy was a spaceman whose story was long written. The only difference between him and Lance and, what's the guy who went to space? Armstrong? Yeah. The only difference between him and Armstrong was he could bring the stars home with him. She then said, my daddy is a seed, because mommy planted him in the ground to show it. She put him 6 feet below the ground, and he went 600 feet below it. He swept through the constellations under the earth with the same goal of coming out with the stars, but the earth swallowed him whole. You see, our third cousins in the first world picked cotton. Our grandfathers here in the third world held picks that got them cramped housing, unsafe conditions, and unfair wage. So think about it. Our great-grandfathers' lives were fully lived, but their stories are only paragraphs in a history book page. If it wasn't clear by now, her daddy was a miner. We say that he was a man like any other, but to this little girl, he was a hugger. He was like Jesus. He was a teacher. He was a dentist. He was a gossiper. He was the moon. He was an explorer. And my personal favorite, he was an astronaut. One who once gathered the stars beneath the earth. Now he mines the constellations above it. Thank you.